Just for the two of us, my dad said, smiling wide as he wrapped his arm around my stepmom on the marble staircase. The chandelier above them sparkled like 1,000 tiny lies. The whole town of Charlotte was there. Neighbors, business partners, church friends, even reporters from the local paper. Cameras flashed as Dad lifted a glass of champagne and showed off the mansion he said he built from nothing. Built from nothing. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from truth. I stood at the bottom of those stairs in a simple blue dress. No diamonds, no smile, just a folder pressed tight against my chest. He thought I was just the quiet daughter who left for college and never asked questions. He thought wrong. Dad, I said loudly, my voice echoing across the high ceilings. Before you celebrate this house, maybe you should tell everyone whose money really built it. The room went silent. You could hear the air conditioner humming. My stepmom's smile froze. Dad's eyes locked onto mine, sharp, warning, dangerous. What are you talking about, Emily? He asked, still smiling for the crowd. I lifted the folder. My mom paid for this house. And you forged her name to hide it. Gasps. Someone dropped a glass. My dad's face changed in 1 second. The sweet, innocent look disappeared. The real him stepped forward. And that was only the beginning. If you believe truth deserves justice, stay with me. What happened next changed everything. Like this story so more people can hear it. And if you've ever been betrayed by family, subscribe. Because some secrets deserve sunlight. Let me tell you how it all began. Before everything broke, my life was simple. My name is Emily Carter. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood outside Charlotte. We had a white 2-story house with a big oak tree in the yard. My mom used to hang wind chimes on the porch. When the wind blew, they sounded like soft music. My mom, Sarah Carter, was warm and gentle. She worked as a financial planner. She was smart with money, careful, thoughtful. She always said, Emily, money is not about being rich. It's about being safe. My dad, Michael Carter, owned a small construction company. He liked people to think he was charming, funny, hardworking. But I remember something else. He liked attention. He liked praise. He liked people believing he was the hero. When I was 16, my mom got sick. Cancer. It moved fast. I remember sitting beside her hospital bed, holding her hand while machines beeped. She smiled at me even when she was in pain. Promise me you'll go to college, she whispered. Promise me you won't let anyone control your future. I promised. She passed away 3 months later. The house felt empty after that. Dad cried at the funeral. Loudly. Dramatically. Everyone hugged him and told him how strong he was. But at night, I heard him on the phone. Laughing. Whispering. Soft, secret laughter that didn't match a grieving husband. I didn't understand then. Not yet. 2 months after Mom died, Dad told me he was seeing someone. Her name was Vanessa Blake. She was younger than him. Blonde. Always dressed perfectly. She had soft eyes and a gentle voice. When she met me, she hugged me tight and said, I've heard so much about you. It felt fake, like hugging a mannequin. Dad said Vanessa made him feel alive again. I was still mourning, still sleeping with Mom's sweater under my pillow. But Dad was already planning dates, trips, smiles. I focused on school. I studied hard. I got accepted into University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. The day I got my acceptance letter was the first time I felt light again. Mom's voice echoed in my head. Promise me. Dad hugged me and said he was proud. But something strange happened the week before I left for college. I overheard Dad and Vanessa arguing in the kitchen. She won't question anything, Vanessa said sharply. Once she's gone, we can move forward. Move forward with what? Dad's voice dropped low. The accounts are almost transferred. I just need time. Accounts? Transferred? I walked into the kitchen, and they both stopped talking. Smiled. Too fast. Too perfect. I left for college with a heavy feeling in my chest. Freshman year at Chapel Hill was beautiful. Red brick buildings. Autumn leaves. Late-night study sessions. For a while, I felt normal again. Dad sent money every month. Said it was from his hard work. Vanessa sometimes sent me sweet texts. Little heart emojis. I didn't trust her. But I was busy building my future. Then, during my sophomore year, something strange happened. I needed a copy of my mom's old financial documents for a class project. She used to let me sit in her office and watch her work. I emailed Dad asking if he could scan some files from her old cabinet. He said the cabinet was gone. Sold it, he texted casually. Didn't see the point keeping old junk. Old junk? Those were my mom's life records. I drove home that weekend without telling him. When I got there, the house looked different. Empty. Cold. Mom's wind chimes were gone. Vanessa answered the door. Oh, Emily. We didn't know you were coming. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I went straight to Mom's old office. It was completely empty. No desk. No filing cabinet. No papers. Like she never existed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked downstairs to get water. And that's when I heard it. Dad and Vanessa were in the living room, laughing. To us, Vanessa said. To us, Dad replied. Then Vanessa asked, did the lawyer file the final documents? Yes, Dad said. Once the property transfer clears, the money is legally ours. She won't know a thing. My heart stopped. Property transfer? Money legally ours? She won't know? I felt sick. The next morning, I pretended everything was normal. I hugged Dad goodbye. I went back to campus. But something inside me had changed. I started researching. Quietly. Patiently. My mom had always kept digital backups of her financial work. I remembered her once saying, cloud storage is safer than paper. I guessed her old password. It worked. And what I found made my hands tremble. My mom had owned a large investment account. Over $2 million. Most of it marked for Emily's education and future assets. But months after her death, the ownership changed. Transferred. Signed with what looked like her signature. Dated 2 weeks after she died. 2 weeks. Dead people don't sign documents. My dad had forged her name. He and Vanessa didn't just move on. They stole from me. They stole from my mother. And now, standing in that mansion, watching him toast to just the two of us, I knew exactly what they had done with the money. They built this palace of lies. The crowd was still staring at me. Dad walked down the stairs slowly. Emily, he said softly, but his eyes were cold. You're confused. This isn't the place. Oh, it is, I said, holding up the papers. Because this house belongs to my mother. Vanessa stepped forward. That's ridiculous. I opened the folder. Inside were copies of the forged documents, bank records, email confirmations, and something else. A recorded voicemail. Dad's voice. Laughing. She'll never find out. By the time she graduates, everything will be untouchable. The room exploded in whispers. Dad's face turned pale. You went through my private files? He hissed. No, I said clearly. I went through my mother's. His jaw tightened. Then he did something I will never forget. He grabbed my arm in front of everyone. Hard. So, you want to embarrass me? He whispered through his teeth. Fine. He turned to the crowd and forced a laugh. My daughter has been under a lot of stress, he announced. College can do that. She's imagining things. People shifted uncomfortably. Vanessa nodded sadly. We've been worried about her. Worried? About me. I pulled my arm away. I have proof, I said. Dad's smile vanished completely. And that's when police lights flashed outside the mansion windows. Red, blue, red, blue. But they weren't there for him. They were there for me. An officer stepped inside and called my name. Emily Carter? We have a report of illegal access and theft of private financial data. My dad stood behind them. Calm. Victorious. You broke into confidential accounts, he said softly. I had no choice. The officer reached for my wrists, and in front of the entire town, they put me in handcuffs. The cold metal around my wrists felt heavier than it should have. Everyone was staring. Cameras were still flashing. But now they weren't taking pictures of a mansion. They were taking pictures of me. Emily Carter, you are under arrest for unlawful access to protected financial records and suspected data theft, the officer said clearly. My stepmom covered her mouth like she was shocked. My dad stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder, protecting her. From me. I didn't steal anything, I said, my voice shaking but loud. It was my mother's account. The officer avoided my eyes. You can explain that downtown. Downtown. They walked me past the marble staircase, past the chandelier, past the guests who whispered my name like it was something dirty. Such a shame. She seemed like a sweet girl. College changes kids. Dad didn't look at me as they led me outside. Not once. The mansion doors closed behind me. The police car door opened. And just like that, I was no longer the grieving daughter. I was the criminal. The ride to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department felt unreal. The city lights blurred through the window. My heart wouldn't slow down. I kept replaying everything. The forged signature. The voicemail. The transfer date after Mom's death. How did he flip this on me so fast? When we arrived, they took my fingerprints. My photo. They placed me in a holding room with gray walls and a metal bench. I hugged myself and tried not to cry. This is what he wanted. To scare me. To silence me. To make me look unstable. After an hour, a female officer came in. You can make one call. My hands trembled as I picked up the phone. There was only one person I could think of. Mr. Daniel Brooks. He used to work with my mom. He was her business partner before she opened her own firm. I remembered him as kind, honest, serious about rules. I dialed the number I still had saved. It rang 3 times. Hello. Mr. Brooks, it's Emily. Silence. Then his voice changed. Emily? What's wrong? I've been arrested. 2 hours later, he walked into the station. Tall. Gray hair. Calm eyes. He spoke quietly with the officers. Showed them something on his tablet. Made a few calls. I didn't hear everything. But I heard one sentence clearly. Her mother made me co-trustee. The officer looked surprised. Co-trustee? After another hour, they removed my handcuffs. You're being released pending investigation, the officer said. Pending investigation. Not innocent. Not cleared. Just waiting. Outside the station, the night air felt colder than before. Mr. Brooks looked at me carefully. Tell me everything, he said. So I did. I told him about the overheard arguments, the missing cabinet, the cloud backup, the forged signature dated after Mom died, the voicemail, the mansion, the arrest. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, his jaw was tight. Your mother was very careful, he said slowly. She knew your father loved big projects, big risks. Did she trust him? I asked quietly. Mr. Brooks hesitated. She loved him, he said. But before she passed, she updated her will. My heart skipped. Updated. He nodded. She placed the majority of her investments into a protected trust. For you. It required 2 signatures to transfer major assets. 2 signatures. So, how did he? His eyes darkened. That's what we're going to find out. The next few days were a nightmare. Local news picked up the story. College student accused of financial hacking at father's mansion event. They showed my mugshot. They did not show the forged documents. At campus, whispers followed me down hallways at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. My scholarship advisor called me into her office. Emily, until this is resolved, your funding is under review. Under review. Everything Mom worked for. Everything I promised her. Hanging by a thread. Dad called me once. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. You pushed too far, he said calmly. Drop it. Apologize publicly. Say you were emotional. I'll make the charges disappear. Disappear. Like Mom's office. Like her wind chimes. Like the truth. I saved the voicemail. Every word. Mr. Brooks moved fast. He contacted the bank listed on the forged transfer documents. He requested the original paperwork. And when it arrived, my stomach dropped. The signature looked like my mom's.
Perfect.
Almost too perfect. Mr. Brooks studied it under bright light. Then he showed me something. Tiny ink breaks. Mechanical consistency. It's a trace signature, he said quietly. Not written naturally. My hands covered my mouth. So he practiced? I whispered. Yes. I felt something inside me change. Not fear. Not sadness. Something sharper. Stronger. He thought I would back down. He thought arresting me would scare me into silence. He forgot who raised me. My mom didn't just teach me about money. She taught me about proof. And proof is louder than lies. A week later, Mr. Brooks called me urgently. I need you to come to my office.
Now.
When I arrived, he looked tense. There's more, he said. He turned his monitor toward me. Bank statements. Property records. Construction permits. The land for the mansion had been purchased 3 months after Mom died. In cash. From the transferred investment account. My chest felt tight. He used her money almost immediately. But that wasn't the worst part. Mr. Brooks scrolled further. There's a second transfer, he said. My heart pounded. To Vanessa Blake. A personal account. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Marked as consulting fees. Consulting for what? Being a replacement wife? I felt sick. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. A soft voice responded. Emily, sweetheart. This is Vanessa. My grip tightened. What do you want? I heard you're still upset, she said gently. This is hurting your father. And yourself. You forged documents, I said flatly. A small pause. Then her voice changed.
Cool.
Controlled. You accessed restricted files. That's a felony. The district attorney is reviewing your case. District attorney? My stomach dropped. If you drop your accusations, she continued softly, we can make this all go away. But if you keep digging, things could get worse.
Worse. How?
I asked. Another pause. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. We have evidence that you transferred funds into your personal student account. That's a lie. Is it? She whispered. The call ended. My hands were shaking. I looked at Mr. Brooks. They're framing me, I said. Before he could answer, his office door burst open. 2 men in suits stepped inside. One showed a badge. Daniel Brooks. Yes. We have a warrant to seize all digital records related to Sarah Carter's estate. My heart stopped.
What?
I whispered. The second man turned to me. And, Emily Carter, you'll need to come with us. There's new evidence of financial misconduct. Misconduct? Mr. Brooks stepped forward. On what basis? The agent held up a document. A transfer of $85,000 from the trust into her personal student account. I felt dizzy. I didn't do that. The agent's eyes were steady. The transfer was made using your login credentials. My login. My password. That only I knew. Or thought I knew. My knees felt weak. Dad didn't just arrest me. He planted evidence. And this time, it was federal. The agent reached for my arm. And as I looked at Mr. Brooks, I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before.
Fear.
They weren't just trying to scare me anymore. They were trying to destroy me. The word federal echoed in my head like a siren. Federal. Not local. Not small. This was bigger than gossip and police lights outside a mansion. This could ruin my life forever. The agents walked me out of Mr. Brooks' office, while employees stared. I felt like my skin was see-through. Like everyone could see the fear running through my veins. I didn't move that money, I said again, my voice shaking. I swear. One of the agents looked at me calmly. You can explain that during questioning. They drove me to a federal building in downtown Charlotte.
Tall. Gray. Cold.
It looked like a place where hope went to disappear. Inside, they placed me in a small interview room. White walls. Metal table. Camera in the corner. I kept thinking about my mom. She trusted systems. She believed paperwork protected people. But what if the paperwork was poisoned? After 20 minutes, a woman walked in. Dark suit. Tight bun. Sharp eyes. "I'm Assistant U.S. Attorney Rebecca Collins," she said as she sat down. "You're being investigated for fraudulent transfer of trust funds." Trust funds. That word hurt. "That trust was my mother's," I said quietly. "And $85,000 was moved into your student account using your encrypted credentials," she replied evenly. She slid papers across the table. There it was. A digital log. My username. My password. Timestamp. 2:13 a.m. 3 days before the mansion party. I was asleep, I whispered. "Do you have proof?" she asked. Proof. That word again. My mind raced. 3 days before the party. I was studying for finals at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Finals week. Library. Cameras. Swipe cards. I was on campus, I said suddenly. Check security footage. Check my dorm entry logs. She watched me carefully. "Your IP address traces back to your father's home network," she said. My stomach dropped.
Of course it did.
The mansion. He used the house Wi-Fi. He made it look like me. "You're protecting him," she said quietly. "That never ends well." "I'm not protecting him," I said, my voice rising. "He forged my dead mother's signature and stole her investments to build that mansion." Her eyes didn't change. "That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth." She gathered the papers slowly. "You'll remain under investigation. Do not leave the state." Leave the state? My scholarship was already under review. Now I couldn't even go back to campus freely. When they released me hours later, I stepped outside feeling smaller than I ever had. Mr. Brooks was waiting. "They're escalating," he said softly. "They planted that transfer," I whispered. He nodded once. "I believe you." But believing wasn't enough. We needed evidence. Real, undeniable evidence. That night, I didn't go back to my dorm. I went back to the mansion. Not through the front gate. Through the side entrance where construction workers used to enter. The security code hadn't changed. Dad always reused numbers. My birthday. I slipped inside quietly. The house was silent. Huge. Echoing. Empty. I walked through rooms decorated with white leather couches and gold mirrors. Everything looked expensive. And empty. Like Vanessa. I went straight to Dad's office.
Dark wood desk.
Locked drawers. A brand new computer. He thought I didn't understand technology. He forgot my mom taught me everything. I didn't try to guess passwords. Instead, I did something simpler. I looked for the router. The internet router sat in a small cabinet nearby. I pulled out my phone and scanned for connected device history. Most people don't know routers log access attempts. But Mom did. And she taught me. There it was. A login session at 2:13 a.m. Device name, M. Carter office PC. Not my laptop. His office computer. My chest tightened. He didn't just use the house Wi-Fi. He used his own desktop. I quickly took photos of the router logs. Then I heard something. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. I froze. The office door creaked open. Dad stood there. He wasn't smiling. "You never learn," he said quietly. My heart pounded. "You framed me," I said. He stepped inside and closed the door. "You should have taken the offer," he replied calmly. "Apologize. Move on. Enjoy college." "You stole from Mom." He didn't even flinch. "Your mother left me nothing but bills and stress," he snapped suddenly. "I built this life. With her money. With my vision," he shot back. For a second, the mask slipped completely. The cruel, hungry man underneath showed himself. "She was planning to leave me," he said coldly. "Did you know that?" My breath caught. "She updated the trust," he continued. "Locked it down. Like I was some thief. Maybe she knew. Maybe she saw who he was becoming." "So you proved her right," I whispered. His eyes darkened. "You think you're smart," he said. "But you're still a child." "I have the router logs," I said. His expression changed. Just slightly.
And that was enough.
He lunged forward and grabbed my phone. I screamed. He pushed me back against the desk. "You don't get to ruin me," he hissed. "You already ruined yourself," I said through tears. Suddenly, another voice filled the doorway. Let her go. Vanessa. She stood there watching. Not scared. Not shocked. Just calculating. Dad released me slowly. Vanessa walked inside, closing the door behind her. You're making this messy, she said softly to him. Messy? He had just assaulted me. She turned to me. You think you're protecting your mother's legacy, she said calmly. But all you're doing is digging your own grave. You transferred the $85,000, I said. She smiled slightly. We can prove you did. My heart pounded harder.
How?
She stepped closer. Because your laptop did it. My blood ran cold. What? We cloned your hard drive months ago, she said lightly. Back when you stayed here during spring break. Remember when your computer froze? We fixed it for you. I felt dizzy. They didn't just steal money. They planned this. They prepared a digital version of me. Dad straightened his jacket. By the time this goes to court, he said calmly, you'll look like a greedy daughter trying to sabotage her grieving father. Grieving. The word felt like poison. Vanessa tilted her head. And judges don't like ungrateful children.
Judge. Court.
Prison. I realized something in that moment. They weren't reacting. They were steps ahead. Every move I made, they already predicted. Dad opened the office door. You should go, he said softly, before I call the police again. I walked out of that mansion shaking. Not because I was weak. Because I finally understood. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. And they were willing to destroy me completely to keep it. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. News alerts. Emails. Missed calls. I opened the first headline. Emily Carter formally indicted in federal financial fraud case. Indicted. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I opened the article. There it was. A formal charge filed in the U.S. District Court. My name. My face. And a statement from my father. I love my daughter, but I cannot support criminal behavior. Tears blurred my vision. He said it publicly. He chose his mansion over me. And then I saw the last line of the article. If convicted, I faced up to 10 years in federal prison. 10 years. My knees gave out. They didn't just want to scare me. They wanted me locked away. And for the first time since this started, I wondered if they might actually win. 10 years. That was the number echoing in my head as I sat on the edge of my dorm bed back at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. 10 years in federal prison. For a crime I didn't commit. My name was everywhere. News stations in Charlotte replayed the mansion video. They showed my face next to words like fraud and theft. My dad did interviews. He wore gray suits and looked tired on purpose. I tried to help her, he told reporters. Grief can change a person.
Grief.
He used my mother's death as a shield. But he forgot something very important. My mom didn't just teach me about money. She taught me about patience. And patience wins wars quietly. Mr. Brooks didn't give up. Neither did I. We stopped reacting emotionally. We started thinking strategically. If they cloned my laptop, that meant there had to be proof of cloning. Mr. Brooks hired a digital forensic expert named Lisa Grant. She used to work cybercrime cases for the state.
Calm.
Brilliant. Precise. She examined my laptop. She didn't rush. 2 days later, she called us in. They copied her hard drive, she confirmed. But they made a mistake. My heart pounded. What mistake? They cloned it, but they accessed it remotely from the mansion network weeks before the $85,000 transfer. She turned the monitor toward us. There it was. Remote access logs. From Dad's office desktop. Timestamps. Digital fingerprints. And something even better. Metadata showing the transfer script was created on Dad's computer before it was executed using the clone version of mine. They built a fake me. But they forgot digital footprints don't lie. I felt something rise inside my chest. Not anger.
Strength.
The federal court date was set at the United States District Court for the Western District of North Carolina. The same city where he built his dream mansion. The same city where he humiliated me. The courtroom was full. Reporters. Neighbors. people from church, even some of Dad's business partners. He sat beside Vanessa at the defense table. She wore white, like innocence. He looked calm, confident, like he already won. When I walked in, whispers followed me. But this time, I didn't feel small. I felt ready. The prosecutors started first. They presented the $85,000 transfer, the cloned laptop evidence, the login credentials. It looked bad, really bad. Then it was our turn. Mr. Brooks stood.
Steady. Clear.
He called Lisa to the stand. She explained digital cloning in simple language. Even the jurors leaned forward. Then she showed the remote access logs, the creation date of the transfer script, and the IP address. Dad's office desktop. The courtroom shifted. You could feel it. Then Mr. Brooks did something unexpected. He played the voicemail I had saved. Dad's voice filled the courtroom. She'll never find out. By the time she graduates, everything will be untouchable.
Gasps.
Dad's face lost color. Vanessa squeezed his hand. But it wasn't enough. We needed the final blow. Mr. Brooks held up the forged signature document. Your Honor, he said calmly, this signature was dated 2 weeks after Sarah Carter's death. The judge leaned forward. Excuse me? Mr. Brooks displayed the death certificate date. Then the signature date. Dead people don't sign paperwork. Silence filled the courtroom. Then the prosecutor requested a recess. Things were unraveling fast. After the break, something happened I will never forget. Vanessa was gone. Her chair was empty. Dad looked around nervously. Whispers spread. 10 minutes later, 2 federal agents walked into the courtroom. They approached the judge. Then they approached my father. I watched as confusion turned into fear on his face. Real fear. Michael Carter. One agent said clearly, you are under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, forgery, and conspiracy. The same charges he tried to bury me with. This time, they were real. He looked at me as they placed handcuffs on him. Not angry, not cruel, just exposed. Like a man who finally realized the game was over. I did this for us, he muttered. There was no us anymore. Vanessa was arrested later that afternoon at the mansion. Turns out, when she realized the digital evidence was solid, she tried to transfer remaining funds offshore. That attempt triggered automatic federal monitoring. Greed always reaches for $1 too many. Months later, the court finalized everything. Dad was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Vanessa received 6. The mansion was seized as part of asset recovery. Most of my mom's stolen investments were returned to the trust. The judge looked at me during sentencing. Young lady, he said gently, you fought back the right way. The right way. Not with violence. Not with revenge that destroys you too. With truth. With patience. With proof. I visited the old house one afternoon after everything ended. The white 2-story one with the oak tree. The wind chimes were gone. But I brought new ones. I hung them on the porch myself. When the wind blew, the sound felt like her again.
Soft.
Steady.
Safe.
I whispered. I kept my promise, Mom. I finished school. I graduated with honors. And I decided to study law. Because I learned something important. Sometimes the people who smile the sweetest plan the darkest betrayals. But I also learned something stronger. Lies are loud. Truth is patient. And patient truth always wins. If you're listening to my story right now, remember this. Never ignore small red flags. Never let fear silence you. And never think you're too young, too small, or too alone to fight back. The right evidence in the right moment can change everything. If this story moved you, if you believe justice matters, subscribe so you don't miss the next story. And share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes the greatest revenge is simply refusing to let evil win.